Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It started on a rainy Thursday evening, the kind where the sky stays gray all day and the world feels a little quieter. I was curled up on the couch, the soft hum of the TV in the background, lost in my thoughts. It had been a long week, stress at work, barely any sleep, and no one around to lean on. That quiet ache of loneliness had started to settle deep in my chest, and I didn't even realize how much I needed someone until he walked in. Jason, my stepson, had just turned 22. He had always been respectful, mature for his age, and carried himself with a calm confidence that sometimes caught me off guard. After his father and I separated, things shifted. He didn't move out, he stayed, said he didn't want me to feel alone. I didn't question it. I needed the company, even if I didn't say it out loud. That night, something felt different. He came in from the rain, hair damp, hoodie clinging to his shoulders. He glanced at me for a moment longer than usual, his eyes softer, more thoughtful. "You look tired," he said, walking over. "You've been taking care of everyone else. Let me take care of you tonight." The room suddenly felt smaller, warmer. His voice wasn't just kind. It was intimate, careful. My breath caught for a second. There was nothing improper in his words, but there was a weight to them. A pause, an unspoken shift in how we saw each other. And I didn't know what to say. My heart was pounding louder than the rain outside. I looked up at him, trying to read his expression. Was this just concern? Or something more? He sat down next to me, closer than usual, and reached for the blanket, gently covering my legs. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "Just let me be here for you tonight." There was something about the way he said it, no pressure, no assumptions. Just presence, comfort. And something inside me, something buried for a long time, stirred. A craving for connection, for being seen. But the question lingered, was this crossing a line? Or was it just two people, both a little broken, trying to find peace in each other? Now I know you're probably wondering, what happened next? Did I pull away? Did I let him stay? Or did the night change everything between us? Before we get into that, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been caught in a moment like this, where the lines blur between comfort and something deeper? When someone unexpected sees you in a way no one else has? Tell me in the comments. Should she trust her feelings? Or is this something that should stop before it starts? Vote in the poll below and let me know your thoughts. Part 2 is coming soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the TV and the soft rhythm of the rain tapping against the windows. Jason didn't move away. He stayed close, his presence warm but not overwhelming. It was strange how someone just being near could make the silence feel safe instead of lonely. I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. I let the moment stretch out, uncertain but oddly comforting. It wasn't always like this between us. Jason was just a teenager when I married his father. At first, we had a polite, distant relationship. He was respectful, a little reserved, always focused on school and work. He didn't ask for much, and honestly, I appreciated the space. But things changed after the divorce. His father drifted, moved out of state, barely checked in. And somehow, instead of pulling away too, Jason stayed. He said he wanted to finish school here, but I could tell there was more to it. Maybe he didn't want me to be alone. Maybe he felt some responsibility. Whatever the reason, I was grateful. Our bond slowly deepened. Small things at first. Dinner conversations that ran long. Sharing playlists. Movie nights where we laughed more than we expected. He became someone I trusted. Someone who listened. Not like a child. Like a friend. But lately, something had shifted. The way he looked at me sometimes lingered a beat too long. The way he asked if I was okay felt heavier. Not worried. Invested. And now, tonight, it was like the space between us had vanished. It wasn't just about comfort anymore. It felt personal. He leaned back slightly, eyes still on me. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to," he said, voice soft. "I just want you to feel okay again." I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice yet. My heart was still racing, trying to catch up with the moment. I couldn't tell if I was overthinking or if something unspoken was rising to the surface between us. I've seen how much you give to everyone else, he continued. But who takes care of you? Who really sees you? His words hit deeper than I expected. I hadn't told anyone how drained I'd been feeling lately. How invisible. How numb. But he noticed, and that scared me a little because it meant he was paying attention in ways I hadn't realized. I looked at him then, really looked. He wasn't a kid anymore. He was a man with a steady gaze, a calm voice, and this quiet strength that made me feel strangely safe. But also vulnerable. There was still so much unsaid between us. And I didn't know what I wanted to say yet. But I knew one thing: I didn't want him to leave. Just when I was about to speak, he reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a question. One I didn't have the answer to yet. So I turned toward him, still silent, still unsure. But I didn't move away. The next morning came too fast. I hadn't slept much, kept replaying the night in my head. Jason's words, the way he looked at me, the way his hand lingered after he tucked my hair behind my ear, it was all too clear, too close. But nothing happened. Not really. Still, the air between us had changed. And once a line starts to blur, it's hard to draw it again. I walked into the kitchen hoping for some normalcy. Coffee, routine, distance. But there he was already making breakfast, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Morning," he said, flashing a small smile. His tone was casual, but there was something in his eyes, like he was waiting for a sign. I forced a smile back, unsure of what I wanted to say or do. Should I act like nothing happened? Did he even see it the way I did? We sat at the table, both pretending to focus on our food. But it was impossible to ignore the silence filling the room. "You okay?" he finally asked, breaking it. "I'm fine," I said too quickly. Then I softened. "Just tired." Jason nodded. "Last night. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "You didn't," I said, and that was true. "It's just complicated." There it was. The truth hanging in the air. This wasn't just about a quiet night on the couch. This was about the fact that he was my stepson, even if we weren't blood, even if his father was no longer in my life. People wouldn't understand. Heck, I barely understood it myself. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, my coworker and closest friend. "Heard your ex is back in town. You okay?" I froze. Jason noticed. "Something wrong?" I shook my head. "No. Just someone I haven't heard from in a while." I didn't tell him the whole truth. My ex-husband, his father, showing up out of nowhere? That was its own storm. We hadn't spoken in over a year, and now he's back, probably thinking he can just walk in like nothing happened. If Jason knew, things would get even messier. But that wasn't the only twist waiting. Later that day, I got a knock at the door. It was Marcy, a neighbor and someone who never minded her own business. She glanced inside, saw Jason on the couch, and gave me a look. "You two seem close lately," she said, too sweetly. I laughed it off, but my stomach turned. People were already noticing, or guessing, and that was dangerous. Now the tension isn't just between us, it's all around us. My ex is back. Jason's getting more protective, more present. And people are starting to talk. So now I need to ask you, should she shut this down before it gets out of control? Or is there a chance this connection could be something real, even if the world might not understand? The days that followed were a blur of tension and questions I didn't know how to answer. Jason had started acting different, more protective, more aware. He'd check in on me more often, stay close whenever we were home, and whenever I'd get a message from my ex, Jason would glance at my phone like he knew something was off. My ex had texted me 3 times now. No explanation, no apologies. Just, "Let's talk?" It made my skin crawl. I hadn't told Jason about the texts, partly because I didn't want to drag him into it. But maybe I also didn't want to face what it would stir in him. I could already feel the shift happening between us, like he didn't just want to look after me, he wanted to protect something he wasn't sure he had the right to claim. One night, after dinner, Jason asked, "Are you going to see him?" I froze. He didn't say who, but he didn't have to. I nodded. I think I need to hear what he has to say. Jason looked away, jaw tight. Just be careful. He's not the same guy you married. And you don't owe him anything. His words hit me hard. I hadn't even realized how much I needed someone to say that out loud. But what struck me even more was how his voice trembled, just slightly. Like something in him was cracking under the surface. I know, I said softly. I just need closure. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. And that silence between us, it wasn't just awkward. It was full of everything we weren't saying. The pull between us. The need to pretend we hadn't both felt it growing stronger. And the reality that we were walking a line that couldn't stay blurred forever. The next evening, I met my ex at a cafe downtown. He looked older, tired. His smile was forced. We made small talk at first, but eventually, he got to the point. I was wrong to leave like I did, he said. I miss you. I want to fix things. I didn't answer right away. All I could think about was Jason, his steady voice, the way he looked at me like I mattered. My ex never did that, not really. When I got home, Jason was waiting. I didn't say anything, just walked past him into the living room. He followed quietly. Well, he asked, voice low. I told him I didn't think it would work. Too much damage. Jason didn't smile, but there was something in his eyes. Relief. Hope. Maybe both. Then came the moment I didn't expect. He stepped closer, standing right in front of me. There was so much emotion in his face, like he'd been holding it in for too long. I didn't step back. I couldn't. I was frozen between fear and something I couldn't name yet. I don't want to lose what we have, he said. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say anything, the doorbell rang. And everything paused. What do you think? Who's at the door? Is this about to change everything? Or has the past finally caught up to them? The doorbell echoed through the room again. Jason and I both stood frozen, eyes locked for a second too long. Whatever we were just about to say, or do, was suddenly suspended in midair. I moved first, crossing the living room with a nervous pit in my stomach. Part of me was sure it was my ex. Maybe he'd followed me. Maybe he wasn't ready to let things go as easily as I thought. But when I opened the door, it wasn't him. It was Rachel, my coworker, my friend, and the one person who knew more about my personal life than anyone. Hey, she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I was in the neighborhood. I stepped aside slowly to let her in, already sensing something was off. Rachel didn't just drop by. She was always polite, always respectful of boundaries. But tonight, her energy was different, stiff, cautious. She walked into the living room, spotted Jason standing there, and her expression shifted. I couldn't read it, but he noticed too. He stiffened slightly, stepping back. Rachel looked at me, then back at him. Can we talk? Alone. Jason glanced at me, waiting for direction. I nodded once, and he disappeared into the hallway without a word. Rachel sat down on the couch like she already knew she wasn't going to like how this conversation would go. I ran into Marcy this afternoon, she said. She's been talking. I sighed. Of course she had. She said you and Jason are close. Too close. Marcy doesn't know anything, I said, trying to sound firm, but it came out flat. Defensive. Rachel looked at me harder now. Are you okay? Are you thinking straight about all this? I'm asking as your friend. I don't know what you think you've heard, I said quietly. But this is not something you can understand from the outside. Then help me understand, she said, her tone softening. Because right now, it looks like you're caught in something that's going to hurt you. Or both of you. The words hit hard because part of me had already thought them, over and over. I didn't have clean answers. I didn't even have a clear idea of what I wanted, just that every moment with Jason felt more real than anything had in a long time. But what if we were building something on the edge of collapse? Suddenly, Jason reappeared in the doorway, his face unreadable. "There's something you both should know," he said. We turned to him. "My dad, he's not just back. He's been reaching out to me too. And he's coming here. Tonight." My heart stopped. Now everything was spinning. My ex was headed here. Rachel knew more than I wanted her to. And Jason. Jason was right in the middle of it all, carrying something heavier than I realized. So now I need to ask, what would you do in her shoes? Can you trust a connection when the whole world is watching? Or is this where she finally have to choose between what feels right and what looks wrong? The knock on the door came faster than we expected. Jason's words still hung in the air. "He's coming here. Tonight." I felt my stomach twist. Rachel stood up, instinctively stepping between me and the front door like she already sensed trouble. Jason moved beside me, his jaw tight, eyes locked on the entrance like he was ready for a fight. I opened the door slowly, half hoping it wasn't him. But it was. My ex-husband stood there, a worn leather jacket clinging to his shoulders, the same arrogant tilt to his mouth like nothing had changed. He didn't even ask if he could come in, he just stepped forward, eyes sweeping the room. "Long time," he said. "We need to talk." Jason didn't move. "You've done enough talking, haven't you? Still running your mouth, huh?" My ex shot back. "You forget who raised you?" "I didn't forget," Jason said coldly. "I just stopped respecting it." I stepped between them. "Stop it. Both of you." Rachel touched my arm gently, but her face was pale. She whispered, "Are you sure you want to do this now?" I nodded. I was tired of hiding from everything. I turned to my ex. "Say what you came to say. Then go." He looked at me for a long moment. "You and my son?" His voice was low, but his words hit like a slap. "Is that really what this is?" The room went completely still. Jason's face didn't change. He didn't deny it. He didn't flinch. He just looked at me waiting. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Because what could I say? The answer was in the silence, and everyone knew it. My ex stepped forward. "You think this ends well? You think this won't blow up in your face?" "I think," Jason said, stepping forward now, "that you don't get to come back after abandoning us and start judging what you walked away from." "You don't understand," he started. "No," I interrupted, voice shaking. "You don't understand. You left. You broke something. And I'm the one who had to pick up the pieces." "Jason's been more of a man in this house than you ever were." He stared at me, stunned for a beat. Then, for the first time since he arrived, he looked unsure. Maybe even ashamed. Rachel stepped in quietly. "You've said what you came to say. It's time to go." He turned slowly and walked out without another word. The door clicked shut behind him, and it felt like the house finally exhaled. Jason looked at me, his voice low. "You okay?" I nodded. "I think so." We stood there in silence. And then, just as I thought the moment had finally settled, Rachel spoke. "There's something I need to tell you too," she said, hesitating. "Jason, he came to me before. A few weeks ago. Asked what I thought about you." I didn't say anything then because I didn't think it would get this far. Jason froze. I turned to her, stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" She gave me a sad smile. "Because I wasn't sure if I should protect you, or get out of your way. So now I'll ask you, was she trying to help, or was she hiding something? And now that everything's out in the open, where does it go from here?" Jason looked at Rachel, stunned, trying to process her words. I could feel the weight of everything that had just happened pressing down on the room. My ex was gone, but the damage he left behind had surfaced in unexpected ways. Rachel had known, maybe not all of it, but enough, and she stayed quiet, watching from the sidelines. "I wasn't trying to control anything," she said gently. "I just didn't want you to get hurt. Either of you." "I get it," I said quietly. "But we all made choices here. Now we have to own them." Jason turned to me. "So where does that leave us?" That was the question, wasn't it? We'd been circling something powerful, something real, but fragile too. Now the truth was out. No more pretending. No more hiding. I took a breath. I think we need time to breathe, to figure out what this really is without pressure, without fear. He nodded, slowly. I'm not going anywhere. I just want you to be okay. And somehow, that mattered more than anything. Not the labels, not the whispers, just that he cared. That he saw me when I felt invisible. Rachel gave us space and left quietly. The house felt lighter, quieter. The next few weeks were slower, calmer. We went back to simple things: coffee in the mornings, quiet dinners, sharing little pieces of life without trying to define them. We didn't rush back into anything. We didn't need to. What we had now was trust. Respect. A connection that didn't need constant explaining. My ex never came back. Maybe he realized he'd already said too much. Maybe he finally saw that some doors don't reopen once they're closed. As for Rachel, she apologized again. And I forgave her. Because in the end, she was just trying to protect me the best way she knew how. Jason and I, we didn't jump into some perfect fairy tale. We took our time. We learned to be honest, to communicate, to rebuild without fear of judgment. And slowly, what started as comfort turned into something deeper. Real. Quietly strong. So that's how it ends for now. Not with drama. Not with chaos. But with clarity. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think they made the right choice? Would you give love a chance even if the situation was complicated? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see what happens next, maybe there's more to come.